Hello, I'm Norton and welcome to Nortonomicon. Today I'm going to be sharing the results of a thrilling challenge that I completed throughout August, drawing a random dungeon character every single day. This is a challenge that's all about stretching my artistic skills in the vibrant world of fantasy RPGs. And at the end of the month I selected the best character from each race to form a one-of-a-kind dungeon party. Last month I created a random dungeon map, piecing it together day by day, inspired by prompts from odd artworks. Whilst I learnt a lot from this experience and it was a lot of fun, it didn't give me much time to focus on character design. So for August, it's time to switch gears and go from random dungeon rooms to random dungeon characters. But how do I go about this? I decided to dive into my collection of tabletop role-playing game books for inspiration and pulled out the Warhammer Fantasy Role-Playing Game 2nd edition. This book is brimming with details and a richly woven lore for players to explore. And the accompanying career compendium contains hundreds of character careers to choose from, along with a handy table that lets you randomly generate your starting career using a D1000. So, armed with a virtual D4 to determine the race and a D1000 to determine the career, I felt that this would give me the variety I needed, providing me with unique, quirky options from the Warhammer world, not just the heroic. So how did it all turn out? Well, let's dive right in and find out. So away we go with day one, and I rolled a 4-3-0-9, which gives us a human farmer. So on the left there I've got my proportions, not really needed as much for the human characters, more so for the halflings and dwarves. Human farmer, not the most adventurous or exciting of starting careers, so just decided to go with a nice straightforward character for this first day. Just gave him a pitchfork for throwing hay about. You'll see it, like sometimes with the face, try and keep it a bit more simple and cartoony, and other times a bit more realistic. The idea here was to try different things, so it varies from day to day. I'm happy with how it came out, but I am looking forward to hopefully getting some more interesting careers in the days to come. Right, into day 2, and we rolled a 2-0-1-2, which gives us an elf apprentice wizard. So with elves I decided to keep the proportions similar to humans, but make them a bit skinnier, a bit more slender. As this is an apprentice wizard, I didn't want to go all out with the get-up and the equipment, so I just kept it quite simple to staff and a book. The book, I think I could have done a better job with the perspective there, but I think in the end it looks alright. I'm happy with the hand holding the book though, looking at how quickly I chucked that on there, happy that turned out like that. So with the elves, I decided to make the faces a bit more pointed and a bit more angular to convey the elfishness. Again, similar to what I did with the farmer on day 1, I tried to keep the style more simple here. Not 100% convinced with how this came out. I think you can tell it's an elf, but I think I could have done a bit of a better job on this one if I'd spent a bit more time on it. On to day 3, and we rolled a 3-4-3-0, which gives us a halfling mercenary for something a bit more interesting. On the left there you'll see the halfling proportions that I've prepared ahead of this challenge to try and keep them all the same. I've given them a bit of a bigger head and then smaller legs. Legs will be a bit fatter. So yeah, this is a mercenary. Decided to make him a bit more rough and ready. Armour him up, but not too heavily armoured. I like to think that he likes to travel light. Fancied giving him a crossbow, so I gave him a crossbow, then regretted it. I think you can see here I did struggle a bit with getting the perspective of that. Don't know why, because it's just a more complex shape with the bow part there and the strings. So you see I kept going back to that one a few times to try and get that right. Yeah, kept the overall clothing quite similar. Like I said, didn't give him any heavy armour, just a nice little overcoat there to keep him warm and a pointy helmet. But yeah, I was happy how this guy came out. You can tell he is a halfling and a mercenary. On we go to day 4 then. I rolled a 3-5-2-0, which gives us another halfling, this time a news sheet vendor. So this is the Warhammer Fantasy equivalent of a newspaper boy or a newspaper man, and I think this is a good starting career for a halfling, so I imagine them being quite good at running around towns and cities screaming, people getting them to buy their news sheets. So again, similar proportions to the last halfling, where try and give them a bit of a big head, so thicker and shorter legs. Wasn't convinced by the face I did here. I think the guy ended up looking both old and young. I think he's wearing that hat to hide that his hair's fallen out from trying to get everyone to buy his new sheets and the stress of not being able to sell them. Bit more of an awkward pose, but not too complicated. But again, overall, I think it came out alright, just a bit of a weird face on that guy. Day 5, and we rolled a 3-2-8-7, which is a halfling field warden. Third halfling in a row, I believe. Enjoying it though. So I went for probably the most difficult pose I did for the entire challenge. I think I was feeling quite confident at this point. I thought, you know what, let's introduce a bit of excitement and action to it. A field warden, reading about it, is someone that basically guards a field, guessing protects crops from thieves and monsters and the like. Wanted to do a nice action pose of him using the sling, throwing a stone at a goblin that's trying to steal his potatoes or carrots or whatever. Yeah, after this I think I started to shy away from the more complex poses on account of how long this one took. It's day 6 then, and we rolled a 3-5-4-2, which is another halfling, this time a halfling noble. So another day, another halfling, and I tried to keep things exciting and fresh by leaning into the posh side of this guy. So not the most eloquent of nobles is how I'd put it. I was quite happy with the pose and the expression I gave him, and I think as you see with most of the halflings I've ended up doing, I gave them a little round belly. I think did a good job on the stomach on this guy. So he's got like a little sword, a little ceremonial sword, I guess, that doesn't really see much action. Put a bit more effort into the costume on this guy, and a lot of effort into this face. Really happy with how that expression came out. I think it conveys that, you know, the right level of nobility / arrogance. Okay, 7 then, and we rolled a 2-0-8-3, which gives us an elf bounty hunter. Finally, not a halfling. Again, I went with a little bit more of a complex pose. I thought I could get away with this one. Wasn't too difficult. So see there, managed to get the pose down pretty quickly. I think this guy ended up being quite inspired by Legolas. I'd say more unconsciously at first, but then I think I lent into that. Didn't want to really draw too many of any race in a stereotypical way, i.e. giving elves bow and arrows, dwarfs axes, etc. But felt made sense here. It's an elf bounty hunter. I thought it made sense for him to be carrying a bow. Made him look a bit more rough and ready costume wise as well, because I'm guessing he spends a lot of his time travelling around the fantasy world chasing down his target. In the end, happy with this guy, just a bit unsure about the face. I think I could have done a bit of a better job on that if I'd had a bit more time. So that's week 1 done, and here are the first 7 random dungeon characters. Really happy with the halfling mercenary, the field warden and the noble. Really like the noble. I think he came out really well. I think he really conveys that attitude, that air of arrogance that I was trying to get across. The 2 elves, I think the bounty hunter was alright, but the wizard apprentice and the farmer, you can tell they were early days while I was still finding my feet. But yeah, I think there's a couple of good characters come out this first week. On to week 2 then with day 8, and we rolled a 4-4-0-2, which gives us a human hairy molt. I wasn't sure what a hairy molt was, so here is the description from the Warhammer Fantasy role-playing game book. Reading through this then, a hairy molt sounded to me like the Bretonian version of a merry man from Robin Hood, so that's what I went for. So for this one, I lent heavily on the picture in the Warhammer Fantasy role-playing game book for inspiration. Wasn't too adventurous with the pose, and I think the costume, I tried to interpret what was in there and just draw that in my own style. As is a merry man, I made him look a bit more merry, so I gave him a nice smile there. Not sure on the face, bit too round. Yeah, I put like frills on his boots and his clothes to make him look a bit more fancy, and that's a feather in his hat. Yeah, I think he came out alright, but probably one of the least inspired characters I ended up drawing throughout the month. It's day 9 then, and we rolled a 1-8-9-9, which gives us a dwarf tradesman. So I've popped up the page for the tradesman from the book. So there's quite a few options there that I think I'd suit a dwarf quite well. In the end I went for more of a generic smith though. So drawing this guy out, I decided to give him a couple of hammers, make him a bit more broad. I was happy to get a dwarf here because I've not had many so far. We're 9 days in and I think I've drawn 1 dwarf so far. But undercooked the beard here. When I was drawing it, I sort of thought if he's a smith and he's around hot fires all the time, then he wants to keep that short. But in hindsight, should have made that a lot bigger. So yeah, I think this guy came out alright. I think the body looks dwarfish. The head, I think you could take that head and stick it on a human and you wouldn't know it's a dwarf head, so should have done a bit more work there. Day 10, and we rolled a 4-1-2-9, which gives us a human bone picker. I was not sure what a bone picker was. I did do a quick look up, and basically they're like a fantasy rag and bone man, goes around picking up all the old rags and bones that other residents of a town or city leave behind, and they trade them in and get an income from that. So yeah, I tried to make this guy as slender as possible, because that's how they're living their life. Then they're going to be living more on the lean side of things. Yeah, made his clothes more raggedy, like they're more repurposed than brand new. So I think the bone picker came out quite well, in my opinion. I think the character and the costume ended up conveying what I wanted to. Day 11 then, and we rolled a 3-7-5-6, which is another halfling, this time a smuggler. So I tried to have a bit more fun with this guy. Again, more of a complex pose where he's sort of running along. He's got his little sack full of whatever it is he's smuggling. Onions? I don't know. A little torch to light the way. I imagine he's running down some back passage somewhere. He's got a cheeky little grin on his face there. Ended up drawing him quite fat. I don't know why. Probably a bit fatter than I would have liked. But happy with the pose and happy with the cheeky little grin I gave him. So it's day 12, and we rolled a 1-5-9-4, which gives us a dwarf rogue. Not a typical career for a dwarf, at least in my experience, but I may be very wrong. Let me know in the comments below if you feel otherwise. Went for, I'd say, a more straightforward pose, but actually might not be able to tell you, this guy's leaning against a wall, and that is a bit more difficult to convey than I first thought. I think this guy could have been a bit more bulky to convey that dwarven heritage. I think I'd drop the ball on the beard again. Again, you could take that head off this dwarf and stick it on a human and you would not know it's a dwarf. So this just looks like a short man in the end. So yeah, I was a bit disappointed with this one. I think probably spent too long trying to work the pose out, and should have spent a bit more time just focusing on the nuances of the dwarven proportions. I actually think that the head's not as bad as I've just said. Got a bit bogged down here towards the end though, drawing a wall to make the pose work, and this is the only time out of all of the characters I drew in August I added a background. So yeah, wasn't a great idea, and never again. Day 13, and we rolled a 3-0-0-1, which gives us a halfling agitator. So this is basically someone that goes around villages, towns, cities, and winds people up. At least that's my interpretation of it. It's another halfling, so I decided to have a bit of fun with this one. Let's see if you can guess who this one's inspired with. Probably the most topical of the characters that I drew throughout August. So quite happy with the proportions and the pose here, and I ended up being really satisfied with the face as well. I think I captured the essence of someone that goes around agitating people and winding them up. The end of week 2 then, on day 14, with a 4550, giving us a human militiaman. So when I started this challenge, I was expecting to get careers like militiaman a bit more. I ended up getting quite a lot more unique, obscure, eclectic careers than I was expecting. So when I got militiaman, I was quite happy to just get stuck into something a bit more straightforward. So just a part-time soldier basically, and that's our dream. Just a guy that maybe for a week a year goes out with his friends from the village and they practice stabbing scarecrows and stuff with the spears, just in case they ever get attacked by goblins, and then they can fend them off. Yeah, I think I drew this guy like he takes his part, the militia, quite seriously. Could imagine him guarding cities against goblins. So that's the end of week 2 then, another 7 characters down, some highs there, some mediums. The Herimolt, not that keen on him, I think probably because I lent so much on the original illustration in the book for that guy. The other guys really happy with the agitator. I think the dwarves need a bit of work, not as dwarvish as I would like. The militiaman though, yeah, happy with him. I think he turned out really good. So we start week 3 on day 15 with a 2617, which gives us an elf river warden. It was at this point, 2 weeks in, that I realised I'd not drawn any women yet, so I decided to rectify that and draw a female elf river warden. So similar to the field warden that I drew earlier on, I guess this is just an elf that's been tasked with guarding their river, their land, and they make sure that only the right people cross it. I guess more serious than a field warden, because you're essentially protecting the border. At least that's my understanding of it. Out of all the elves I have drawn so far, though, really happy with this one. I think the face and in fact the entire figure lent more towards that realistic style, and I was really happy with how elfish the face ended up looking. The shield, I feel I could have made it a bit more interesting, maybe put some sort of sigil on there, but I am trying to limit the time I spend on these. Day 16 and a 4836 gives us a human steppes nomad. What is a steppes nomad? So referring to the book, they seem to be a Kislev horseback nomad. Not going to draw the horse though, focusing on the character itself. And with this one, I decided to take a little bit of a different approach and throw a bit more caution to the wind with the proportions, and went for something that was a bit more exaggerated to try and simplify it, see if I could speed things up, and I think I did the same with the face as well. So yeah, I gave this guy a few first to keep him warm, because I imagine being a nomad, travelling about on a horseback, you've not got a fixed abode, you're outside a lot of the time, it's going to get a bit chilly. On his own then, I think he came out well, this guy. A bit more cartoonish than some of the other characters, but yeah, I think he looks quite cool. Day 17 then, we got a 2426, which is an elf messenger. Similar to the Steps Nomad I drew yesterday, I decided to, again, throw caution to the wind with the proportions and go for something a bit more exaggerated, a bit more cartoonish. So what I'm trying to do here is explore the styles I'm using. You can see there with the face, I've gone a bit more of a straightforward approach there. Didn't want to draw realistic proportions every day. I think the point of this challenge was to explore different things. Did find that I kept falling back to more realistic faces and realistic proportions because that's what I'm used to drawing. So I pushed myself to draw something a little bit different here with this elf messenger. So yeah, I think it looks alright. Quite happy with the face, but I think it's not a style I'm used to. I think probably needs refining a little bit more to sort of pull it together. It just looks a bit disjointed to me when I look at this one. Day 18, rolled a 4337 and got a human frog wife. Probably the most unique of all the characters I ended up drawing. So I wasn't sure what a frog wife was, I did have to look this up, but they are basically the village gossip. They capture frogs and fishes and then gut them with other frog wives, and they sit and gossip and share rumours. So they're the person you want to go to if you want to know what's going on. Again, like the last couple of days, I went with a more exaggerated style, proportions with this one. Tried to make the frog wife look a bit more stooped, definitely a bit older. Gave her some buckets on her shoulders for carrying all those frogs and fish. More interesting and fun to draw this one. It's quite different to anything else I ended up drawing over the 31 days of August. Day 19, we rolled a 4462, and that gives us a knight errant. So, knight errant, a wannabe knight essentially, or a knight that's got something to prove. They're going around taking on various quests to prove their worth and get establish their reputation, get a name for themselves. A lot of fun with this one. Give it more of a dynamic pose, which came out well. I mean, it could have gone good or bad. I think it came out alright, this pose. So drew him looking off to the side there, like he's ready to fight or do battle with something. I'll let you decide what. I made him youngish looking as well, because he's a knight errant. He's not established yet. He's young, he's got something to prove. It's day 20 and we rolled a 4918, which gives us a human tradesman. So again, looking at the options that are available, I had to think as to what would be appropriate for a human, and I settled on a human apothecary. I think with this one, I had the idea of a back alley apothecary, basically a guy
with loads of potions hidden in his jacket, selling God knows what, God knows who, to help them on their quest, or maybe even just cure the odd ailment. So I think this guy ended up looking quite devious, quite dodgy, and that's exactly what I was going for. Last day of week 3 then, and we got a 1-4-8-9, and that is a dwarf pit fighter. Again, something that I feel that I could sink my teeth into a bit more. One of the more action-orientated starting careers. I've always liked pit fighters. Essentially, a poor man's gladiator, at least that's how I interpreted it. So this dwarf ended up looking quite a lot like Kratos from God of War. That was unintentional. I think I've drawn all my dwarves bold so far, maybe out of laziness. I need to start giving them some hair, but I just think dwarves do look better bold. Makes them look more dwarf-like, dwarfish. But I like drawing this guy. It gave me the opportunity to really get stuck in and make his muscles look muscular, whilst giving him a bit of a belly and a stern expression. So that's week 3 done. Looking back on it, that elf river warden on the first day, I was really happy with that. I think that looks, in terms of style, quite realistic, or more realistic than the others, and you can see that I made a conscious effort to try and explore a more cartoonish, exaggerated style throughout the rest of the week, and I think some of them came out quite well. The frog wife, really like how she ended up looking, and the knight errant, and the little Minimus Decimus Meridius on the bottom right, I think he came out quite well also. But the elf messenger, just something about that, I think it just looks like a Simpson. Not what I was going for. So on to week 4, day 22, and we rolled a 3-1-3-2. Gives us a halfling charcoal burner. These guys, they essentially live on the outskirts of towns, city, villages, and they burn wood and make charcoal. And they have to live on the outskirts because I think they're prone to burning everything down. Wasn't sure where to go with this, so I've looked up what a charcoal burner looked like online for inspiration, and yeah, just gave him some sticks on his back. I imagine he's carrying them about and burning them, and then another stick for lighting them, and then a club for beating up any goblins that try and steal his charcoal. That I can't see that happening too often. I think with these guys, most likely wrong place, wrong time more often than not. I am satisfied with how this guy turned out though, especially the expression and the face. Probably not the most halfling of faces, bodies, expressions, but I like the overall look and feel. So it's day 23 and we rolled a 1626, which is a dwarf rune bearer. I wasn't 100% sure what a rune bearer was at first, so referred to the book, and they are dwarves that go from one clan to another, delivering messages, more often than not above ground nowadays, because a lot of the mines are infested with goblins and other creatures. So a dwarf rune bearer needs to be quite fit, tend to be quite young dwarves as well, so that's what I was going for here. Tried to make him look a bit more youthful. One of the first dwarfs that I actually gave hair to, gave him a bit of a top knot, ponytail, and a backpack. So imagine this guy running long distances across the fields and through the forests to deliver important messages. Very happy with how this guy turned out then. I think he's the best dwarf I've drawn so far. Day 24 then, and we rolled a 1202 for another dwarf, this time an ex-convict. So I had a bit of trouble with the ex-convict as a career, because I think, what is an ex-convict? An ex-convict, they've probably moved on into another career, i.e. tradesman, rune bearer. So I decided to make this dwarf a very recent ex-convict, i.e. he's just escaped, so that's why he's not got any sort of clean clothes. He's wearing the rags he was wearing in the prison, and he's got the chain around his ankle. So I know I've had a tendency to draw most of my dwarfs bald, so I decided to partially rectify that here and draw this dwarf with a heavily receding hairline. And I think this guy came out pretty intimidating. He looks like he has just broken out of Dwarfcatraz, and he's got his little prison shiv there, which I think he's probably smithed himself in his cell out of a piece of scrap metal. It's day 25 and we rolled a 4242, which is a human drover. Like a few of the careers so far, I wasn't sure what a drover was, so here is the definition from the book. I think they are like Kislevite cowboys, like Hugh Jackman from the film Australia. As with the Steppes Nomad that I drew earlier though, didn't want to draw the horse, just wanted to focus on the character, so it's an unmounted drover. So yeah, I decided not to lean too much into the Hugh Jackman Australia inspiration and just drew a Kislevite male, again giving him some furs to keep him warm, a few bits of equipment, and a little bit of rope that I imagine he can use to lasso horses or cattle that are incredibly close to him. It's day 26 and we rolled a 2319, which gives us a Kithband warrior, an elven Kithband warrior. Again, I wasn't sure what a Kithband warrior was, so here's the reference from the book. And the book says that they are elves that live inside great forests, so gone for a wood elf. That might be me oversimplifying things, but I've not drawn a wood elf so far, and I quite like them. Again, I've not drawn many women. In fact, I think I've only drawn female elves and the frog wife. So I decided to draw a female elf again and lean into the stereotype, give them a bow that they can use to defend the forest. So looking back at this Kithban Warrior, I do feel that I could have done more with the outfit to convey, the sense that they are from a forest wood elf defender. Day 27 then, and we rolled a 3, 4, 9, 8, which gives us a halfling militiaman. So I had a bit of fun with this because I quite liked the first militiaman and decided to basically do a mini version of him and try and do a very mean looking halfling. So yeah, halfling that for 2 weeks a year goes out with his other halfling friends and does a bit of training, while probably under the influence, so that they can defend their little town or village from attacks, whether it's raiders or monsters or whatever. I think this guy actually really enjoys being part of the militia. I think he likes to lord it over the other halflings in the village. Got a bit of an attitude about him. Last day of week 4 then, and we rolled 3804, which is a halfling temple guardian, another halfling. I lent on the book for inspiration here as to what a temple guardian should look like, and had a bit of fun just drawing halfling, which I imagine like a little wannabe priest in his robes, going around with that big pole and I'm guessing like a lantern, telling people what they can and can't do in the temple. I think this thing on his head's, I imagine it more like a pope hat than a helmet. So yeah, tried to make his outfit look a bit more churchy, ecclesiastical, or whatever the word is. And so I added a few purity seals to his outfit as well. He's been blessed and purified himself and protected himself against demons and the like. I think the pole for his lantern though, that's a bit too big looking back on it. So that's week 4 done, and I'm satisfied with all 7 of these characters. I think they all came out as intended. The halflings do look quite mean, not as happy-go-lucky as you'd expect from a halfling typically, and I'm happy with the dwarfs as well. I think they are looking a lot more dwarf-like. We're on to the final few days then with day 29, and we rolled a 2884, which is an elf tradesman. So for an elf tradesman, I decided to go with a herbalist. I thought that's a good trade career for an elf, and decided to make them female as well, because sort of dropped the ball there quite a bit and been quite male orientated. Apologies. Don't think this one came out quite as well as I intended. I think I tried to do too much here with the costume, too many layers, and didn't have as clear a vision as I probably needed to going in to get this one where it needed to be. I'm not sure that you can really tell that it's meant to be a herbalist. I think it's a bit one of the more difficult tradesman careers to convey visually. Like they're meant to be herbs or grass on her back. Yeah, I think it looks alright overall. Just I needed a bit more time to refine this and maybe take a different approach and start again. On to day 30, and we rolled a 4891, which gives us a human thug. So I did have fun with this one. I think I like drawing characters where I can make them a bit more mean. I think probably a bit easier to draw, because if you make a mistake, you should put a scar over it, or like your faces don't have to be as refined, because it's a thug. He's probably been beaten up, and that's why one eye is bigger than the other, or his nose is bent. Gave him a bat there with a nail in it. Just tried to make him look as rough and ready, and I think tried something a bit different with his boots. I think a lot of the boots I've drew throughout the month were quite similar, so this guy's got them weird light sort of fur boots and a nice little leather skull cap to protect his bonds. Ultimately satisfied with how this guy came out. I think he looks quite mean with that missing tooth. Looks like he's quite an intimidating character. And here we go, it's the final day, and we rolled a 4-2-3-1, which gives us a human dilettante. So our final day and the final time we have to look up a career to find out what it is. So the book says that a dilettante is someone that thinks of themselves as scholarly, they're quite well read, but they've not got the discipline to commit to one specific career, so that makes them sort of a jack of all trades and a master of none. In my words, they're a posh person that's got too much money and doesn't have to get a real job, so they can just mess around all day trying lots of different things and looking down the nose at us common folk. Oh, yeah, I tried to convey that with this drawing. So I gave them a book that I imagine they carry around, using that to initiate conversations about how smart they are, and try to just make them look as dandy-like, as posh-like as possible, and again give them that air of arrogance like I did with the halfling noble earlier on, and I'm really happy with how the whole character here turned out. So that's the last 3 characters done, and I'm not going to dwell on these too much. Happy with the thug and the dilettante, not so much with the herbalist. But what we need to do now is select the best of each of the races to make our unique dungeon party. So here are all the dwarfs that we drew throughout the month then, and to select the best, what I did is I sent this picture to my brain trust, so a few friends and family, and I asked them all to select their favourite of each race. So from the dwarfs then, the winner was Minimus Decimus Meridius, the Kratos lookalike. I think he was an easy favourite there. So here with the elves then, I think there's a good mix of style with the elves. I tried different things and a couple there that I think I'm quite happy with. But the Brain Trust, they decided on the Bounty Hunter, which did surprise me a little bit because I thought a couple of the other elves, in my opinion, looked better. But yeah, the Bounty Hunter has appeal. And then the halflings, quite a lot of halflings. There are 9 halflings there. And I think I'm happy with all of them apart from the new sheep vendor. Expected the militiaman to get more love than he did, and the noble, and I don't think anyone realised who the agitator was based on. But yeah, the results are in, and the winner was the mercenary, which was surprising to me because that was the 3rd character that I drew out of all 31, so really early on. And of everyone I asked for their opinion, I think that was unanimous that the mercenary was the favourite. And finally, we're on to the humans. So I drew more humans than any other race, drew 11 of them, and quite a wide variety of careers and styles, from the frog wife to the knight errant. But there can only be one winner, and that winner was the knight errant. Now, I'm not as surprised that the knight errant was a favourite because it was probably the most heroic and dynamic of the characters that I ended up drawing. I think a lot of the other human characters, they were more like background characters, NPCs, but I enjoyed that because you need NPCs in any story. So here we have our completed unique dungeon party. I've made a few tweaks and edits, mostly to the knight and the bounty hunter. So I've changed their heads, I've redrawn them so that they're looking forward. They were looking to the sides, both of them looking to the right, and it didn't fit with the halfling and the dwarf. So I decided to make everyone look forward, and I'm happy with how the knight looks. Looking forward, and it gave me the opportunity to redraw that bounty hunter's head, which I don't think I was satisfied with first time. And here we are with our flat colours. I did really lean into the Legolas look for the elf bounty hunter. It was a bit more adventurous with the knight and the mercenary. The dwarf's basically naked though, so not much to do there other than colour his skin in. And then last thing to do then is to add a little bit of shading, bring them to life, and give the party a name. So it's the End of Summer Party. Hilarious. So yeah, really enjoyed this challenge. I think I did, towards the end, find a more happy medium between a more realistic style and a more cartoony, simplified style. I think you can sort of see from these guys here. Happy with the proportions as well. I think the dwarf pit fighter looks like a dwarf pit fighter. You can tell that the halfling's a halfling, the elf's an elf, and that the human's a human. So I think I sort of got my head around that quite well towards the end, and overall ended up quite satisfied with how these guys came out, and most of the others. I think the key learning, similar to when I did the dungeon drawing, was that to draw these guys effectively and efficiently, needed to decide on a pose and a style before putting pen to paper and then committing to that. I found that when I did that, these guys sort of came together without much thought. That some of the characters where I wasn't as sure and I was sort of guessing as I went through, they took a lot more time. So yeah, I think overall really worthwhile challenge, and I will be trying something similar but different in September. And if you've not already, please do check out my webcomic over at Nautinomicon.com. You can find a link in the description below, and thank you very much for watching.